I've been growing plants indoors for many years, probably about 5 or 6 years now, and I have been able to grow them, but with really lackluster performance. So this was the season that I spent a lot of time digging deep into the research to figure out what it is that's wrong with my plants when I grow them inside. Hey friends, welcome back. I am Patrina for those who are new here, and I love to garden here in Florida, but I also like to garden inside. And I know that probably sounds counterintuitive because I live in an area where you can grow all year round. Why would I possibly grow inside? Well, Florida gets very, very hot, and during the summer, there's only a very small amount of plants that can grow. So I use my indoor garden to grow more of the traditional vegetables like lettuce and basil and all the different herbs, some flowers for the bathroom. And then right now it's technically winter and we do get a few frosts, and I don't really like covering plants. So I decided to grow my tomatoes and peppers indoors during the winter, which I think can resonate with a lot of you. Typically my expectation when I grow plants indoors is that I just throw them in one of these special machines. This is a hydroponic. It's technically an Aero Garden Farm XL24 something, I don't know. It's one of those brands. I'm not sure they even make this particular model anymore, but you can find lots of different models like this hydroponic system that are the stands or the little tabletop editions. You can also do indoor growing just in soil. Like, it doesn't have to be a hydroponic system, as long as it has all of the key elements, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But you kind of just assume as long as the lights turn on, as long as you give it the nutrients it needs, as long as it has the medium that it needs, whether that's soil or water, like, they'll just grow, right? Yeah, no, there is so much to it. And I think my expectation was that you would just set it and forget it. And that sometimes is the case. I mean, it's a little bit more of the case when we're talking about lettuce, but it's definitely not the case when we're talking about a salsa garden of tomatoes and peppers. Very quickly into growing these guys, they sprouted, they were doing lovely, and then probably in their 4th week, I started to notice some challenges. I started to notice like red stems, red leaves, discoloration on the leaves. You could see the vein texture of the leaf. I started to notice something on the leaves that looked like aphids, but I knew it wasn't aphids. I hadn't introduced aphids, and I couldn't rub them off. And I'm like, what is going on with my plants? So I was like, you know what, once and for all, I'm going to sit down and research this, because I have always had issues. I had leaf tip burn on my lettuce. I've had like die off on my flowers. Like, I've had nutrient issues, and I'm very sure that that's what that was on pretty much any plant that I have put in one of these machines. And so I'm like, you know what, let's tackle that first, because I know what nutrient issue looks like. Because I grow so much outside, I kind of know when plants need, you know, nitrogen, they turn a little yellow. When you start to see this purpling color, that usually means like a phosphorus deficiency. When the overall plant health is just not great, it's not growing as quickly as normal, you might be looking at a potassium issue. We are kind of just guessing though, unless you do an actual test. But I knew that nutrients were involved, so I started to do some research, and I really was using the Aero Garden Nutrients as my base, because Aero Garden says you can grow everything in their thing and you just have to use this. And I was like, oh, well, it looks pretty good, right? It has a nitrogen of 4, it has a phosphorus of 3, a potassium of 6, calcium 1, and 0.5% of magnesium, which seems like, I'm like, oh, that should be good, right? No, it's not, unfortunately. That's not high enough for something like tomatoes and peppers, and especially this volume of tomatoes and peppers and the size of my tomatoes and peppers. It got him through the seedling stage, or what I like to call the teenage years of plant growth. It got him past that stage, but then once they started to come into the blooming stage, which is the flowering stage, it really was having a hard time keeping up with the nutrients. It still was flowering, it still was setting fruit, but the leaves were really having a problem. And I knew if I didn't correct that soon, that they would go downhill fast, and that would be my only, you know, chance of getting that particular fruit, whatever was on there. And I also knew that if the plant started to go downhill fast, that meant my fruit was probably not going to get as big as it could. So then I started researching other hydroponic system nutrients, and I found this one, which is the one that I ended up going with. But there's another kind, the Flora series, I think, that I might get into as I get deeper into this nutrient journey, because their series has like 3 different kinds, and you use them through the different stages of growth of the different kinds of plants. But you kind of really got to understand like what plants need what. So when it comes to greens, lettuces, those kinds of things, even herbs really, they just need like a lot of nitrogen. When it comes to flowering plants like the tomatoes and peppers, they need more phosphorus. When it comes to flowers, usually this is just fine with it, maybe a little hot dose of nitrogen every once in a while. So I found this one. It's called Easy Grow. I don't know much about it, but it's a tomato vegetable fertilizer. And here's the part that's important. The nutrient spread or numbers. This is nitrogen, 4 nitrogen. So not a lot of nitrogen. In fact, I think this one had more. Nope, it had the same, 4 nitrogen. But here's where things get different. It has an 18 phosphorus and a 38 potassium. These are big numbers. This is what this plant needs at this point in time. Now, what you don't want to do is go from something like this and then just dump what it says to dump in here. I kind of stepped it up over time. So I'm supposed to give it I think 4 ounces, I believe, for my size container here. I gave it a half an ounce, and then 7 days later I gave it a full ounce, and then 7 more days after that I gave it 1.5. You know what I mean? I kind of stepped it up until I got to the full 2 ounces that it needs every 14 days. So then once I stepped it up and I got the nutrients up to the right level, I started to notice a very big difference in the plants. I started to notice that they started to put on more growth. They began flowering again, but it started to have a different kind of issue. The leaves, particularly the peppers in the back here, I noticed that the leaves had something that looked like aphids. I was mentioning this to you earlier. And I thought, oh no, aphids made it in the house, which is one of the worst things. Although you can take care of aphids once they make it inside, it's just such a battle. I like to use insecticidal soap. Some people like to use neem. I don't particularly like neem. I liked insecticidal soap. I'll put that down in the description if that's something that you're interested in. But you got to knock it out. You got to do it every 3 days when the lights are not on, and you really got to wipe all the leaves. It's such a pain in the butt. But anyway, when I saw that, my heart sank because I'm here we go. I'm going to have to deal with aphids on a very, very big bushy plant. I did not want to deal with that. But then I started to wipe them off to figure out, and I'm they're not wiping off. I wish I would have recorded a video. I was kind of in a panic mode at that moment. I realized very quickly that it was a salt issue. It was actually salt crystallized on the leaf surface, and I was I have never experienced that in my life. I was wow, I don't see that outside in the outside garden. I know nothing about this. Why is that happening? Is it something wrong with this fertilizer? Did I put too much even though I stepped it up slowly? So then I went online and I did a significant amount of research, and they're the only way you're really going to know is get you a meter. And this is not an expensive meter. I know it kind of looks a little expensive, but it's fairly cheap. I think it was under $20. I'll put it down in the description here as well. But this meter tells you EC, ppm, and pH. Let me describe what all of those things are. pH is the acidity or the alkalinity of your water or soil. I think this only works for water, guys. Hopefully there's a soil one. There is a soil one. I'm sorry, I use it outside. It's a thing, a probe that you stick down into the soil. So the pH is important because plants like to live between 6 and 6.5, but they can handle to, down to 5.5, and they can kind of handle up to 7. But you don't want to get outside of that range. And then the EC and the ppm, this is all new to me, but the EC and the ppm basically measures the salts that are accumulating in the water. And the reason why that's important is the nutrients that you put in here have salts, and those salts, that's how they measure how much nutrients are in the water, whether you're over nutrienting them. Is that a word? Overfeeding them, or whether you're feeding them appropriately. So there's 2 measures. I think the measure that is more popular is the EC, which is an electrical conductivity, how electrical currents pass through the water and the dissolved salts. It picks up a number. ppm is another way, but it kind of is not the way that most people use, because EC is more of a universal measurement. I'm not going to get into all of that because it's way above my head. This is still new to me. But I knew that I needed this meter in order to calculate that. So I got the meter and I got so excited. I stuck it in there, the water. You're supposed to kind of splash it around for about 30 seconds and then let it sit still for it to come to measurements. And I took the pH, the EC, the ppm, The EC and the ppm were within normal ranges. I was like, score. But you know what wasn't? The pH. The pH was 7.86, I believe it was the first time I measured it. It was wildly high, and I was like, how does that even happen? So some of it happens from the water that you're using, and I use my tap water here, and for some reason our tap water here is very alkaline, which isn't, I guess, a bad thing, but it's not a good thing for when it comes to plants. And the reason why the salts were pushing off and the reason why some of the red leaves were still happening was because the pH was so high that it ends up locking up the nutrients. So I have a good amount of nutrients in there. It was a good amount. It was exactly what they needed, but the plants can't take it up from the water because the water's pH is too high, and it's actually like slowly killing the plant. So then I have to figure out, how do you solve high pH in a water? Well, there's these little products, and this can go either way. So this is called pH down, but they make a product called pH up. They have all kinds of products for this type of stuff. And so I had to start using this, and I'm still learning. But I'm so far putting a little bit of pH down in basically every other day. I don't know if that's normal. If you're a hydroponic expert, you know, head down to the comments and talk to me a little bit, because I didn't think I'd have to use this all the time. I thought I would just have to like get it settled and then I wouldn't have to use it. But I think it has something to do with the fact that I have to keep refilling these tanks. These plants are very big at this point, and I'm refilling the tanks like every 3 days. So every 3 days I have to put pH down in to get my water to settle. I'm considering maybe going to like rainwater, because I do collect rainwater, but I don't know if rainwater would be bad for the machine. I'm still learning, but I did learn that the pH is also affecting it. So I've been bringing down the pH, and when I did that, I noticed a huge improvement. These plants like doubled in size. They're actually starting to fall out of the machine. The flowering became very excessive. I even have a tomato that is coming into color right now, and these plants are still producing more tomatoes, which is really, really cool. They're finally able to access the nutrients that I put in there to fix our phosphorus problem. They've been limping along since then because the pH was so high that it was very hard for them to uptake that nutrients. So I say all that to say this: when you treat indoor gardening as a gadget and not necessarily as a system or a cycle, like your outdoor garden, you're gonna have lackluster results. You have to kind of really take on a new knowledge base when it comes to growing plants indoors. When it comes to the lights and how close the lights need to be and what kind of lights they need. A regular overhead light is not going to do the trick. You need sometimes special lights that have special color or wavelengths, and they have to be so close to the plants. This is even kind of far. But I have a few different size plants here, so I'm trying to take that into account. But when you're just starting out seedlings, they need to be like right on top of it. And then you have to start thinking about the water or the soil that you're using and whether it has the appropriate nutrients in it and what are the appropriate nutrients that they need. Because we are not growing them in a natural environment outside, you have to take into account all the things that these plants need. How much salt is in each one of your nutrients? Whether the pH of the water that you're using is of the right level that it likes from what it lives normal life outside. You know, whether it has air circulation. I haven't even mentioned that yet. I have a little baby fan that I have that points at this. So I think when we think like I'm going to set it and forget it and it's going to be great, and then we have like these lackluster harvests, we think that the machine is not working, when in actuality we really have to develop a system of taking care of these plants, very much like the system of taking care of the plants outside. Although we got a little help from Mother Nature because she kind of takes care of a lot of these things for us outside. But inside, we've got to mimic that environment. So if you've had trouble with growing plants indoors, don't feel too bad on yourself. Like don't beat up on yourself, because these plants are actually a little bit, I don't want to say harder to grow indoor. I think they are. I'm going to say they're a little bit harder to grow indoors in terms of having to learn a little bit more than what you have to learn outside. But in terms of like the fact that they just grow and produce in this tiny little space, in those ways, they're actually easier because we don't have to deal with weather patterns or hurricanes or frosts or too much sun or not enough sun. Like those things are all taken care of, but there's a different set of issues that you do have to manage when you're growing things inside. So this is all the things that I've learned this season with growing my plants indoors in these hydroponic or, indoor gardening systems. I hope that this might help you guys if you've been struggling with growing these things. I'm going to put these products down into the description so that way, if you want to check them out, you can. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. It looks like I have 1 tomato to pick and maybe a couple peppers. The salsa garden harvest has begun. Happy gardening, guys.